Okay, so welcome to the 48-hour art check, which
Yes.
no one knows what it is yet because we haven't told anybody. This has been the super secret art project that Josh and I have been teasing for the last week or so.
Yeah, so maybe we should explain to everybody kind of how this crazy thing came to be and then what we're intending to do with this.
Okay.
So the last time, like Corey, Scott Strickland and I have a art channel that alternates between our two channels. I guess it's an art show. And it's called the Art Casters, and we have Corey on all the time. And Corey and I often afterwards will stay up probably way too late, just kind of chatting. And we had this kind of crazy idea at like 1 in the morning, where we were talking about we're both working on book projects. There are these really complicated projects, and it's hard to kind of keep up motivation. And when taking on an art project that's a big project like a book, and we were talking about kind of the importance of having um, like basically having a way to kind of keep yourself and your artist friends in check. And we came up with this idea of doing the 48-hour art check. I hope that's kind of summing it up
Yeah,
to
I
its
think so.
best.
I think what I've found, and this is kind of obvious to a lot of people because everybody does this, but is without some sort of external accountability, I tend to find lots of other things that I could be doing.
Yeah.
Video games and dates and watch every movie on the new Plex server that my cousin hooked me up with, and like anything. And so, but if I have that little thing in the back of my mind where I've got to check in with so and so because I've got to report something, then it's just that extra little push. It's kind of like when you're exercising and you tell someone and they're gonna go with you, and you kind of are
Yeah.
like, okay, well, Josh is gonna be there, so I'm gonna get out of bed now, or whatever. And so that's kind of where it started. And then we just thought every day was probably a bit much because you work on your stuff every day.
Yes.
I tend to work in. I try to do 6 hours in every 3 days, and so in any 2 or 3 day period, I'm putting in a couple hours a day, but I will sometimes take a day off.
Yeah.
And so every day didn't work. And for me, once a week is kind of like, I'll just pull a marathon all nighter, like to get in
Exactly.
a week's worth. And so every 48 hours was kind of a good way to, if you're doing something every 48 hours, I feel like you're making pretty good progress on your project.
Yeah, so we came up with this idea that we're going to every Monday, Wednesday, and what was it? Monday, Wednesday, and
Monday, Wednesday,
Friday?
Friday. Yeah. So
Yeah,
Monday you'd report on everything you did that weekend. Wednesday you'd report Monday, Tuesday, and whatever happened up until that point on Wednesday. And then
hmm,
Friday you just go from when you reported on Wednesday to when you're reporting on Friday.
got it. And so basically, we're going to check in with each other to check our progress, our struggles, and our plans for the art that we're currently working on. And Corey and I are both working on some pretty massive projects right now. I think primarily the impetus for this came out of I'm working on this graphic novel called Quarterly Stories. I'm kind of in the thick of it, and I'm needing to move myself forward on it. And then I think right now your primary goal is to keep on that book, right?
Right. So I'm finishing my version of the Tongue Cut Sparrow, which is an ancient Japanese fairy tale. And the big challenge for me is that I've never had anything published, and so I am about 18 pages away from being done. And it's a little bit easier than a comic because it's just a picture book, so I just do one big panel rather than a bunch of panels. So I can get that done pretty quickly, but after that, I've got to get it published. And
Yeah,
so part of what I'll be reporting on is what I'm trying to do to get it published. I've never conventioned or tabled at a convention. I've never reached out to
yeah,
publishers. I've never done a Kickstarter, and so I'll be producing art as I'm also trying to navigate the business end of getting this thing out there.
Yeah, so basically the context of this show is going to be for us primarily to keep each other accountable to staying productive as artists on our own personal projects and not losing sight of those things. And then the other advantageous thing about this is if, you know, the format kind of works for us, then maybe it'll work for those of you who are watching. So it's also something where we're kind of thinking that this sort of accountability and public accountability to create artwork might actually be a really positive thing for other people. So with all that said, we've kind of combined our efforts and we've made an intro that you guys will be seeing every other day. And I believe we're going to alternate this between our two channels. But we're going to kind of like, this is in the beta stage. So at this point, we're going to kind of do what works. And hopefully once we have like the momentum of it, you know, every other day, you guys can kind of follow along from channel to channel and sort of hopefully draw some inspiration for your own work and hopefully, you know, get to the point where you can also report what your progress, your struggles, and your plans are for your own personal art. So with that said, should we kick it off?
Yes. Before we kick it off, though, I think one of the key points that I think is really important that we're not doing well right now, which we knew we were going to do well, but yes, because we both could talk to each other for hours and hours and hours, we've made sure that these will all be 15 minutes. And that's our goal, is that each one of these segments will be 2 minutes long, and then we'll leave 3 minutes to either talk about whatever we want at the end, or if a bunch of people start jumping on and want to jump into the chat, we can kind of do chat stuff. But we're going to kill it no matter what's happening at 15 minutes, or we'll never get anything done and we'll just do live videos all the time for hours every day. So yeah, with that, and this is the cool thing, and one of the time-saving tricks that we're doing is we're going to be doing this live. There'll be no editing, which could end up being disastrous if I press the wrong button. But everything is everything is preloaded, and so we will be live talking and on video, but everything else that's happening has already been done. And what you're about to see is we had this idea where we'd have an animated intro, and we were just coming up with really stupid ideas, and so I don't want to ruin it, but I will tell you that Josh illustrated these characters and I animated them. And this is Josh's band, No Saboteurs, that I did the best I could, though I'm not an audio editor, splicing it up to the beats and the rhythm of the animation. So we'll be back in about 10 seconds. Okay, so that's right. That's it. That is the animation.
I love it. It's so exciting to see that thing move. So in the spirit of this, should we just kind of kick it off and talk about our current progress on projects?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. So why don't you start it off? How is your progress for the day and for the weekend on your art?
So I spent about 6 hours yesterday animating the intro, and a lot of that was cutting up the artwork because there's kind of this whole time I was like, oh, I should have better communicated with Josh. When I'm collaborating in the future, I need to be more clear on stuff, because this is the first time I've made anybody else's artwork move, and so there was so much that I just instinctively knew how to set up the file. And so anyway, so it took a long time to kind of divide everything up and get it all to move and everything, and that's what I did. And then I did the animatic prior to that, which I don't have preloaded, but maybe we'll show people the animatic at some point. But I just sketched it in Photoshop, and then really rough, and then I cut it up and I made that move. And so that's kind of what I've done in the last 48 hours is animate that thing, which I'm actually really excited about. I don't think I haven't animated that much at all, but I don't think I've ever finished an animation in like a day and a half. So I'm pretty stoked about it.
Yeah, I was blown away by it, to be honest. Like, and what's neat is the animatic that you provided made making the illustrations just like super simple because it was pretty clear which key elements you needed, and honestly, like even the gesture of the characters was there, so I didn't even really have to rough them out. I could just go over it straight in vector and create the illustrations. So you did like the majority of the work on it, which was really helpful. I just got to do the window dressing, so that was a lot of fun.
Which saved me a ton of time as well. So should we haven't discussed this, should we go through all three stages with one person and then go to the other person, or do alternating back and forth?
Let's do alternating back and forth on the progress.
Okay,
And
so
then,
Josh,
all right.
what have you done in the last 48 hours?
All right. So I finished a page of quarterly stories that scanning and then posting that to quarterlystories.com. So I got my new computer set up. So I'm on an iMac, which might be a shock to some of those of you who've watched Cory and my conversation, because I was almost convinced to get a PC, but I ended up sticking with Mac and finding one within my budget. And then I completed the illustrations for this. Finished the last one. I've been carving away little bits at a time and sending you screenshots as we go. And then started pencils for what I'm going to be working on tonight, which is a client illustration for a T-shirt. And then I'm also hoping that tonight, before I go to bed, I'll be able to do sketches as well. So that's kind of where I'm at for progress so far, and I think I might have dipped into plans a little bit.
Yeah, so you're alternating, you're balancing between quarterly stories and doing T-shirts.
Well, so the freelance thing is interesting because I don't take a lot of freelance clients, but this is a particularly good client that I'm overdue to kind of get some art to them. So it's kind of an exception, but in general, I usually don't take freelance unless it's something I really like. But in this case, the client's very good with their pay and very good with their timing, and makes fun projects. So yeah.
Yeah.
But most of the time, I'm working on personal work. So
Okay.
cool. This is one of those weird exceptions.
Right.
So should we get into struggle
So I can do plans as well.
Yeah, plans might be good before struggles.
Yeah, and with commiserating. So I've got, I don't know how well you can see this. I've got this penciled out, and this is going to be a semi full page, semi spot illustration. For when my main character, or the villain, she's about to die, and so this is the page preceding her death, and so I've actually penciled it about 6 times, trying to get it right, and I think I've got it right now, so I'm going to ink that. And I meant to ink that last week and got really distracted and didn't do anything last week. So this is really good. So my plan is, before we meet again, I will have at least that page inked, and I will start the pencils on another on another page.
Awesome. Yeah. What I'm hoping by our next check-in for me is that I'm going to have at least the rough layout done for the next page of quarterly stories by the next time we meet up. So that's going to be kind of something that'll be interesting to be held to account for.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely good we're doing this because, like I said, the temptation as artists, I think we said this at the top, is to just kind of let things slide or allow ourselves a little too much leeway sometimes. And sometimes just having that knowledge that, like, oh man, 2 days from now, I'm going to have to check in with you is really going to help. So should we talk about the possible struggles or struggles that we're currently having?
Yeah.
All right.
You want me to start it off? Sure. Or you want me to? We are adopting a baby, and I was
wow.
I didn't tell you. Yeah, so we're adopting, and baby's due July 19th, and I was unaware of the amount of legal red tape and work that it took, and so a lot of I mean, you hear about it, but a lot of what I did last week was we had our home study, which is where they send a social worker from the government to decide whether we're fit parents to allow us to do this whole thing. And so there's like this whole giant checklist. And so it was good. It's good challenges, but it was also very time consuming to like go check all the everything. I mean, the carbon monoxide detectors and the fire extinguisher, make sure that's charged and still in date, and replace all the batteries and the fire alarms, and then mount all of the furniture that could possibly tip over on someone to the wall, and so it was just like it was like a whole week of odd jobs and this big giant list, and then more paperwork than you could possibly imagine. I had to like describe. Yeah, I described like describe my parenting style, describe my parents' parenting style, describe in detail how my parenting style, my parents' parenting style differ and why, and then major tragedies that have happened in my life and what I've done to overcome those. And then my wife had to do this whole thing, and then we had to compare each other, and then there was interviews, and anyway, it was just a lot. It was a lot, and it all happened last week, and so I barely got anything done last week at all.
That is a massive challenge, and that's also pretty understandable to not get anything else done. I've had a few friends go through that process of adoption, and it's the fact that you guys are this far, like that's massive.
Yeah, and we're already matched, and so it's awesome. So we're very excited, and I'm not complaining at all, but it is challenging.
Oh, and to try to get art done on top of that is just that's unimaginable.
Yeah.
Wow. So for me, like the current struggle has just been kind of addressed, which is like the last time I was going to work on this client art that I'm going to work on tonight. I hit save and nothing happened. And then I thought, okay, well, I'll just clear some space because my hard drive's probably just like having trouble, because it's a 10-year-old computer. And as I was deleting files, they just stay.
Well, and you've got to mention that your hard drive has been making an actual audible clicking noise for a while.
Yes. Yeah, a ticking. So it's like it's like a literal, well, almost literal ticking time bomb. It was very overdue, and every time I've mentioned to people, like a couple of friends that I called after I bought this, they're like, well, how old was your computer? When I'm like 10 years, they're like, what?
Right.
It's kind of amazing it kept running, but it's such a relief to have that whole process taken care of, where all the data, I know you just went through this recently too, where it's just like all the data transferring and prepping and just getting the programs up and everything.
Oh, and I'm not even done. I have the project I'm working on right now on micro SD cards, and I'm just moving stuff back and forth as I need it. So it's going to take me a year to transfer everything over at this rate.
It's a massive process, and I'm just thankful to be at a point where I'm like, okay, now I can work.
Right.
And to my relief, like even today, I finally was able to upload a YouTube video because my computer was in such a fragile state before, where I knew the hard drive was going to die, and I'm like, I want to replace the computer before the hard drive dies because I've gone through that, and I don't like the idea of going through hard drive failure again.
Right.
And so the nice thing is, like, I'm actually finally at a place where I can work on projects and work on my art. And so scanning, well, anyhow, I'm going to go, I'll make it very brief because it's getting close to 2 minutes. But the scanning process, like usually on my previous computer, just to scan, I have to scan my pages, as you've seen, if you've watched my YouTube channel, or you guys will see on here. My pages are relatively large, so I have to scan them in fourths and then stitch them together in Photoshop. And then they're black and white pages, so all I have to do at that point is just really adjust the contrast, clean up the page a little bit, and it's done. Previously on my old computer, that would take me about 4 hours, 3 hours maybe to do. On this computer, last night when I did that, it took maybe 15 to 20 minutes to do the whole thing.
Yeah.
Which was, it's going to make an exponential difference. And so that's definitely helping my struggles. But for struggles coming up, I just think the balance of the work life and the home life is always going to be a struggle to kind of do. And that's why I'm so excited that we're implementing this art checks. And I just hit 2 minutes. So
Ooh,
I think
well done.
that's pretty much it. So do you want to, in the spirit of this thing, should we kind of say something to go out before we go out?
Yeah, this is one of the things that I think we both hope that this happens. I have been influenced by so many other artists doing cool things. I mean, even you and Kevin back in the day with your podcast and a ton of people, and it would be really awesome if we were able to come up with this format that helped people produce more. And so if there's anybody that is watching this either currently or in the future, once this really takes off, we would love, I want to give you permission, like blanket permission right now. We would love for you to grab a buddy and hold each other accountable with this format. And so anybody who wants to do a 48-hour art check, we don't have it yet, but we'll have like a web page with like little templates and suggestions, and we'll start building kind of as we figure this out, things that work and don't work. And I would love it if you guys, if anybody was like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. If there's just more art in the world, more creativity and more whatever, and you can do this with whatever you want. You can do it with music and dance and whatever. Anything that helps you survive in this world better than just getting by. Use this as a format to help keep each other productive and sane. That would be really cool. That's kind of how I wanted to go out, is just a call to action for everybody else.
I totally agree, and like, I mean, as we said at the top, I guess a good way to summarize it is this is like an AA meeting for artists.
Yeah.
It's like, this is a way for us to hold each other accountable, make sure we're continuing to be productive and that we're pursuing our goals as artists, because often, we can sell ourselves short as artists when it comes to the big long-term plans. And I think having a every other day check-in like this is really going to, at least personally, help me maintain accountability and get stuff done. And so I totally agree. This thing could hopefully help everyone out. But the other beauty of this is it'll show itself in practice, because in 2 days from now, when we have to deliver on what we talked about today, like I said, as you guys are watching, you'll be able to see that return happen for us, which I have no doubt is going to be pretty exponential. And then from that, hopefully that will also inspire you guys to kind of join suit and do it as well with us.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Okay.
So I guess, should we call it?
Yeah, and I just realized I'm going to do this. So there's some credits. These are going to get better. They might roll, and we might even have music and stuff. But yeah, so that's just want to thank No Saboteurs, Josh's band, for lending us the license to their music for the intro. You guys will have to go find your own when you do this. And then make sure to check me out at corykerr.com and check Josh out at Quarterly Stories. And I believe I'm able to put stuff in the description after this goes live. So, or it is live now, but after it gets processed. So we will also have links to various things in the descriptions of each of these videos. And we will figure out more of this as we go along. But go subscribe to Josh's channel and make sure you subscribe to my channel. And if you hit that bell, then it'll give you a little notification when we go live, which we will do Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, most likely in the evenings at some point. Okay. We'll catch you guys later.
Bye.